Welcome back, everybody. We are here for the top four of the Bremen Regionals 2022. I myself am Kostai Dimos, and I am joined by the ever so lovely Mr. Ben Kiriakou for some prime time action of Goliaths at play here, which I'm more than certain that we're definitely excited about it, as with all of you viewers at home, you should be too.
Yeah, I mean, there are some players here that need no introductions.
Exactly.
Of course, we had 6 out of 8 players from the top 8 that we managed to stream in day one. Always nice to see these players and their progression through the tournament and to feature them again, of course, in day 2. And today is no exception. We have the bracket there on the screen so you can see who made it into the top 4. The first side of the bracket on the left, you have Eric Rios taking the victory versus Giovanni, and another Giovanni, in fact, taking the victory over Richard Hodge and making it to the top 4. That's the first game that we are going to be showcasing. We will be seeing the other side of the bracket, dominated by Maurice Uteg and Julio Tarlau, who we managed to feature in their top 8 games.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I do quite find it interesting the abundance of swordfish present in comparison to, I'd say it's predominantly half of top 8 initially were swordfish variants. And then we do have the kind of breakdown of Zashi and Eveltal as a standout. We've got the 2 Lunalodon teams, and I think the Zacian and Calyrex Shadow Rider too. So it's quite interesting to actually see that right now we've got 3 swordfish out of 4 within top 8, and just Julio trying to represent with that Groudon and Lunala.
Yeah, the combination so strong in that Zacian and Kyogre, and very versatile as well, although we do see the same 6 Pokemon for 3 of our top 4 players.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that the team is exactly the same. These trainers will have made a lot of different decisions as they built their teams. But of course, we are starting with our top 4 representing Italy, I believe, is Giovanni Piscitelli, and you can see on your screen there at the moment. 2021, some online events, Battledome 4, top 4, X9 League 2 champion there as well. 2020 Oceania Internationals, top 32, making the trip halfway across the world to play Pokemon. Absolute commitment there to the game, and of course, 2019 Washington top 8.
Exactly. And we've got Giovanni doing exceptionally well, actually being the 4th seed right now going into this bout. So definitely representing Italy. I think Italy has had a very strong showing with this event as well. But we're just going to be going ahead and transitioning over to his opponent. And this is a very tough opponent to be facing down in top 4. The European International Champion, Mr. Eric Rios.
Yeah, 8-0 in Swiss as well. So clearly on form as he has been over the season, and I kind of feel like we almost don't need to introduce him, but let's try our best. As Costa said, EU international champion from the European tournament that was held only a few weeks ago. Liverpool regional champion from a couple of weeks before that.
Yes.
And of course, no stranger to the top spots, taking the top 8 spot in both the 2019 World Championships, a format that also had restricted Pokemon allowed in it, as well as in the 2020 season, the Oceania Top Internationals top 8 as well. Again, a format that favored restricted Pokemon being allowed to play.
Yeah, and we did have an interview post his stream match yesterday as well, where the question was asked, which is on everybody's mind. Eric, we believe you are the top leading CP scorer. What are you still doing here? And he's just saying, I've just come for some good practice, and if I could get prize money, then yeah, sure.
Then great.
I know. So amazing performance from him. But of course, ladies and gents, we do have the voting available right now. So please go ahead and vote down below the trainer of which you think or you are supporting in trying to progress on to the critical finals of today's Bremen Regional. So I'm not sure, Ben, do you have any favorites going into this?
Do you know what? I'm always going to root for the underdog, so to speak. So
yeah.
good luck, Eric. Well, I hope you do well. But Giovanni, I'm going to be supporting as much as I can.
Yes.
As we get into team preview for Game 1 and team previews actually simple for us to run through because it's Zacian, Kyogre, Zapdos, Rillaboom, Incineroar, and of course Grimmsnarl in that order for both players.
I know, a bit mind-boggling if you ask me, to be honest. But yes, so I'm quite fascinated to see. So this is an archetype that was kind of flooding the meta early season, and at some point, Stefan Mott was actually able to get his own variation of it, go ahead and grab up a regional win with it. So I'm quite interested to see what the actual variance is with each of the Pokemon, their move slot, their item choice as well. So I'm quite fascinated to see what you think just going into this. Like,
yeah, I mean, because the really interesting thing, right? Okay, so this is a mirror, right? Yes. And you could think, well, maybe it's speed ties all over the place. Maybe it's going to be them making all the same decisions, but it's those tiny little decisions that these trainers make when they're preparing their teams. Yeah, which Pokemon is slightly faster than the other? Which Pokemon is trained more aggressively or more defensively? And the item choice is going to make a difference in the matchup. And those are the sort of things that these players will either have, maybe talked about, or maybe they've seen what the other trainer is using. And of course, we see their approaches being different to these matchups. Eric leading off with the Rillaboom and the Kyogre, and the Zacian and Zapdos leading out for Giovanni.
Yeah, so I am quite interested to see the position of the Zapdos. Initially, if you are Rillaboom, this isn't an exceptionally good lead for you if you're Eric. Sure, you do have Fake Out available on the field, but then you've got A, as Zacian, which is highly offensive and threatening, and then B, the Zapdos, which could easily opt to go for the Dynamax Max Airstream if it wanted to ignore the Kyogre, anticipating a more defensive play from Eric's side within that slot.
Yeah, and then there's the Incineroar in the back that could always switch in for Eric and play a little bit more defensively. And of course, the Zacian on Giovanni's side of the field, while it's putting on loads of offensive pressure, and alongside the Zapdos not really taking too much damage from that Rillaboom slot, it does have to fear if Eric decides to go for a Dynamax on his Kyogre. Combination of Zacian and Zapdos' damage output really won't be able to do too much to Kyogre if it does go for that Dynamax.
Oh, but we're going to be seeing Giovanni actually opt to go for a more defensive damage mitigating strategy right here, going for the Eerie Impulse into the Kyogre, and the Kyogre actually tries to opt to go for that Origin Pulse. It does unfortunately miss that Zapdos, so of course it wouldn't have dealt as much damage because now it is at -2 of its special attack, but regardless it would have been able to get some sort of chip damage to be able to slowly count down that hit point marker.
Indeed, and if my memory serves me well from Giovanni's game in the day 1 of this tournament, that Zapdos is also carrying Roost. So combination of mitigating the damage from Eric's Kyogre and the ability to Roost off that damage probably would have made the damage a little bit less relevant on the Zapdos, but it does mean that Zapdos is going to have an extra chance to attack or do something a little bit more positive. So really quite big, even though the damage is probably a little bit smaller.
As we're going to be seeing the Zapdos actually switching in for that Kyogre on Eric's side, and his Rillaboom actually going for the Protect there. So the Zacian completely ignores it, goes for that Zapdos slot, wanted to try to target it down in case there was a Dynamax of a Kyogre there, but I would expect it wasn't so for the Dynamax, it was so for the expected, anticipated switch out, as if you're a Kyogre at -2 special attack, you do want to switch out so you can try to reset those stages.
Yeah, exactly, and now we'll find out maybe which Zapdos is trained to be a little bit faster than the other. If both of them are carrying Eerie Impulse, which is one of the common moves that you see on Zapdos sets in these sort of compositions, we'll see maybe which one goes off first. If Eric's goes off first, then the Rillaboom on Eric's side of the field will be a little bit more protected from the Hurricane coming out from Zapdos. But of course, since it's just protected, it does have to fear that Zacian going for a Behemoth Blade, and nothing currently on Eric's side of the field, other than if Incineroar is in the back, is stopping that Zacian or slowing it down.
And I think it would make a lot of sense to be able to have that as a fourth Pokemon. No Incineroar has been revealed at the moment, but we are going to be seeing that Rillaboom opting to switch out, reset its Fake Out availability, and it's going to be bringing in the Zacian. So apologies, we have, of course, had a fourth Pokemon revealed on Eric's side, so we at least know that there is no Incineroar from his side. We'll have to find out on Giovanni's, as we're actually going to be seeing the Zapdos deciding to go for the Dynamax. So wanting to opt for a more offensive strategy right now. Maybe get an Airstream up just to enhance its partner as its own speed to be able to outspeed Eric's Pokemon.
Yeah, it could also be an opportunity for the Zapdos to get knocked out this turn as Zapdos goes down to 11 hit points. No static activation coming out from Zapdos on Eric's side of the field, so Giovanni getting the better end of that stick, so to speak, and not being muted by any potential paralysis coming out. Airstream follow-up into Zapdos, but the Zapdos on Eric's side of the field did move first, and so was able to clinch enough health to survive that Airstream. Unfortunately, though, for Eric, Giovanni's Pokemon have got the speed advantage now after that max Airstream, so Zapdos on Giovanni's side of the field is putting on a ton of pressure, but Eric is a very calm player. He knows what he's doing, he knows his strategies. He would have probably thought about this scenario, and I would imagine at the moment Eric is trying to maybe delay his Dynamax and take the attacks, have enough resources where Giovanni has used all of his to come in strong, maybe with that Kyogre in the back to Dynamax that instead.
Yeah, a bit of a conservation of momentum sort of strategy Eric wants to be able to expand on when Giovanni's Dynamax has expired, as we're going to be seeing Giovanni's Zacian go for the Behemoth Blade, targets down the Zacian. Will we see a double up? It may seem to be the case, as that is confirmed, and the Zacian on Eric's side is no longer on the field. So a bit of a huge stakeholder in this strategy with the Swordfish archetype going down already on Eric's side.
Yeah, no more swords for Eric. He is currently swordless, as Eric does go for the Eerie Impulse, mitigating some of the damage from that Zapdos, but I feel like a lot of the damage has been done. Of course, the Zacian on Giovanni's side of the field won't be able to be mitigated from that Incineroar coming in. We do see the Kyogre now, though, and Max Lightning is a move that would be boosted by the electric terrain, but unfortunately Zapdos is in the air and not affected by that electric terrain. Not going to get the boost, and that Eerie Impulse coming out from Eric's Zapdos is really, really telling of his strategy to get through the rest of the match, because now that Kyogre is looking pretty threatening.
It really is, and I think that's exactly what Eric was trying to find. He was trying to find the moment where he could completely take advantage and capitalize off of a Dynamax momentum swing, per se. So we're going to be seeing Giovanni recognize this, go for the Protect with their Zacian. So they just want to make sure that they're setting it up, weakening the Pokemon that they need to, and potentially picking up a KO. But, Eric Zapdos able to just hang in there with a very important 9 hit points, whilst it was able to go ahead and restore its HP. It is temporarily grounded at the moment, and we're just going to be seeing Eric's Kyogre go and try to get the KO onto the Zacian. So well anticipated from Giovanni's side. Quite unfortunate that his Zapdos at -2 special attack wasn't able to pick up the KO on the opposing Zapdos.
No, but now it's going back into its normal form. I think maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity there for Eric not going for the Zapdos in this turn. Of course, the Zapdos has got reduced stages of special attack, but equally, now that it's not in its max form and has a speed advantage, can just go for an Eerie Impulse and slow down that Kyogre. And so, the Zacian, it would be nice to have knocked it out, but equally, you're probably going to have struggled to be able to get the damage output you need. Zacian going for the Behemoth Blade, though, knocking out that Zapdos finally.
Knocking it out, but unfortunately being subject to that static activation there, which will paralyze it and halve its speed, and potentially even get a full paralysis if it survives the turn, which it does, thanks to Giovanni's Eerie Impulse coming in so clutch right there. We've got a Dynamax Whale on the field, ladies and gents. This is a very powerful Pokemon, and you've just seen it not quite able to finish off the job there due to that -2 special attack now.
Yeah, and I'm kind of looking at that Zapdos on Giovanni's side of the field and trying to work out how exactly Eric can get through it. Of course, Giovanni, he hasn't switched.
Yep.
He has maxed. Both players have maxed. He hasn't switched. Zacian's taken most of its health in damage, and Eric is down to his last 2 Pokemon, so really well piloted there. I don't know how Rillaboom and Kyogre with reduced stages of special attack is going to be able to get through this Zapdos. Maybe set for a critical hit. Zacian is in range of a Grassy Glide, which we see coming out there from the Rillaboom, and is enough to knock out that Zacian with a critical hit.
It is, and I think it's one of those things where Rillaboom's a really strong Pokemon, so even though that was resisted, I'm not quite sure what the calc would have been there, but regardless, we do see the Zacian going down. Kyogre subject to yet another Eerie Impulse, so I'm not expecting any sort of great damage to be coming out here, unless it's a critical hit, but no, there is not. Don't worry, everybody. Zapdos is down at 105 hit points. It is quite healthy, and we finally get to see the third Pokemon on Giovanni's side being a Rillaboom of his own.
That's a really nice time for the Rillaboom to come in, both offering fake out pressure because of the fact that it's just entered the field, of course, but also the Grassy Glide pressure. And Eric Rios has his Kyogre going back to its normal form now, so isn't going to be able to have that HP that was needed for him to survive the Grassy Glide with lots of health left.
Indeed. So just being able to go ahead and see the pressure coming out right here. Unfortunately, of course, that means that the Rillaboom is just going to be going down and subject to that Hurricane. And it was brought down to 71 of its hit points, being able to recover a tiny bit more via the Grass Terrain there too.
Yeah, absolutely. We have been just told, unfortunately, a little bit of a mix-up on the overlay that we've got on your screen right there. It is actually Eric Rios that is on the left and Giovanni on the right. So it will be Eric that looks like he's taking this game 1.
I feel like I've been subject to a Trick Room scenario or a Magic Room because that has completely taken me aback.
Yeah.
So this whole time, apologies ladies and gents, it has turned out to be the case where due to technical difficulties, we have been monitoring full momentum swings from none other than Eric Rios as opposed to Giovanni. So quite unfortunate there. Apologies for the fake out to you viewers at home as well. But yeah, so Eric is up 1-0 and in a very, very commanding way as well. Just being able to stick in with that lead of the Zacian and the Zapdos and essentially go through, what was it? 5 turns around there of just pure momentum and knocking out each Pokemon on Giovanni's side, which unfortunately for himself, he didn't bring an Incineroar, which may have done some sort of business there.
Yeah, I think whoever was controlling the switch on that side of the field was showing us a masterclass of how to play this archetype. Really a good example of what the different decisions that you make in team building have an impact in the game. We saw those speed interactions. I don't believe that there was ever any inconsistencies, so it looks like it wasn't a speed tie. It may have been.
It may have been.
But we did see the Airstream going off, and then we didn't really see any other interactions to counteract that, of course. But getting that Eerie Impulse on the field is so important, as well as that Zacian that wasn't able to be neutered by any Intimidate coming out onto the field, of course. So real masterclass in how to approach this sort of matchup.
Indeed. So the overlay, we are being told, is correct at the moment. So we do see Giovanni on the left-hand side and Eric on the right. So going into this game 2 then, we got a scenario where Giovanni really needs to be able to pull this back in order to stay in survival of a potential finalist place. So what are our thoughts? Do we think that Incineroar Grimmsnarl had a place in this matchup?
Well, I think they do have a place. I think you have to bring both restricted Pokemon. You need the damage output, and you need the ability to target down the opposing threats. You kind of need Zacian to knock out Zacian. Kyogre is there to also help knock out the Zacian, but equally is there for the Incineroar and the Grimmsnarl in many respects. The Zapdos is both a defensive pivot in the ability to use Eerie Impulse, as well as an offensive one, and it offers the speed control. And the Rillaboom in this matchup is to help support alongside the Zapdos, knocking out that Kyogre, which, if left unchecked, is going to be doing so much damage. And especially if it does go for its Dynamax form, then it's once it's out of that Dynamax form, as we saw in Game 1, you can just Grassy Glide and do lots and lots of damage to finish it off. So, when you go through it like that, you're kind of like, well, is there a reason to bring the Incineroar and Grimmsnarl? But you have to drop something else that's important in the matchup to do that, and I think that's hard to do.
Yeah, exactly that, as we are going to be having our Game 2 leads on the field. And yes, for confirmation, we do actually have received the word that unfortunately the players selected inverted codes, which is why we had that bit of a mishap in Game 1. So they are correct right now. We are looking and not being lied to. So Giovanni is on the left, Eric is on the right. We've seen Giovanni go for the adaptation of Kyogre and Zapdos as the lead.
Yeah, and I think this is a little bit better because, that Rillaboom really didn't do too much to Eric's side of the field, especially leading with that Zacian and the Zapdos. Eric, one of the players known for using, knowing the matchup, knowing what he needs to achieve, and sticking to his guns and using the same lead regardless. Maybe it doesn't go completely right, but it can't go that far wrong. We see Giovanni going straight for the Dynamax on his side of the field. Zacian following up with a play rough, but does fall foul of that static paralysis.
It really does, and I think that's that's one of the beautiful things about Zapdos' passive ability. The fact that if you are you have a physical Pokemon, you are subject to a potential mishap there of gaining that full paralysis status there. As we're going to be seeing Giovanni go for the Origin Pulse right now. This is going to deal a lot of damage. Oh! Picks up the KO on the Zapdos from Eric's side. So Eric is already down 1 Pokemon out of 4 during this turn 1 bout.
And again, we're seeing the results of different decision-making processes. We did see the Zacian, unfortunately, get paralyzed, but the most important Pokemon in this matchup, I think, is that Kyogre coming out onto the field that Eric's brought in and trying to maybe get a little bit more offensive pressure going with his restricted Pokemon. Unfortunately, because of that static paralysis and the speed boost coming out from Giovanni's Kyogre and Zapdos from that max airstream, Zacian is probably a little bit dead weight here. There's an argument a longer term for Eric to preserve it, just so that it can come back and deal with the Rillaboom in maybe an end game, if Eric can find the space to be able to do that. But he's going to have to do that with his max Kyogre, which is coming out onto the field there, and while Giovanni is putting on a lot of offensive presence.
Yeah, definitely a lot of offensive presence here, as we're going to be seeing the Zacian be well aware of it, or actually, apologies, just wanting to be able to preserve itself. It wasn't subject to a full paralysis there, so it was able to get that protect off. Max Airstream, though, from Giovanni's Zapdos is going to go into the Kyogre, so Eric maybe anticipating a focus into that slot, but Giovanni not falling for it at the moment. We just wants to guarantee that Max Airstream gets set up. Both the Zapdos and the Kyogre do gain that advantage in speed, because this is so important in this scenario. But of course, the Zapdos is going to be taking a very powerful Max Geyser here, which is able to go ahead and pick up the KO. So all of a sudden, Geo is out of his Dynamax Mon. It is down, but they were able to go ahead and gain that speed boost for the Kyogre.
Yeah, and the Kyogre is water spouting. That's going to put a lot of pressure on Eric's side of the field, but kind of got a sneaking suspicion that Rillaboom is going to be sitting in the back, and since the Zapdos went for the Dynamax on Giovanni's end, it's not going to be able to go for that Dynamax, and Rillaboom on Eric's side of the field is probably going to quite easily pick up the knockout on Kyogre and Giovanni's. So will be now a case of whether the Rillaboom that's come in for Giovanni will have enough power to knock out this Kyogre, maybe alongside Kyogre's damage output on Giovanni's side of the field, and take away all of Eric's offensive presence.
Yeah, so the defensive switch out there from Eric. Just wanted to make sure that they get the Rillaboom on the field, have fake out pressure available for the following turn, and they will naturally take this water spout quite handsomely, I would say, but there is always the chance of a critical hit, which is quite unfortunate if you are Eric, no doubt. They do still have fake out pressure available. They do still have access to Grassy Glide if Giovanni has not opted to bring an Incineroar in the back. It is subject to getting KO'd there.
It is, and this is quite an interesting turn, actually. We saw a little bit of grassy terrain recovery, which may actually be quite significant on Eric's side of the field. May have taken that Kyogre to a place where it could survive the grassy glide while it's still in its Dynamax form, at least. And we saw that the Rillaboom on Eric's side of the field also took its grassy terrain recovery before Rillaboom on Giovanni's side of the field.
Yes.
And that could be a difference in training. It could have been a speed tie, but if that's the case, then maybe there's an opportunity here for Eric to get the grassy glide off onto Kyogre on Giovanni's side of the field, as we're seeing right now.
It's on 3 HP, but unfortunately due to that, and using Water Spout, which is based off of the current HP pool of the Pokemon using the move, it does not deal any sort of respectable damage, and gets KO'd, unfortunately as a result of that, from Eric's Max Geyser.
Yeah, and now the difficulty is, as with many difficulties that come with playing this sort of mirror, it's all about what Pokemon that you have remaining and all of your resources available. Zacian in the black for Eric is paralyzed. It's taken maybe 60% of its health. Giovanni's Zacian is not paralyzed, still has full health. That Intrepid Sword has gone up, and there's no way for Eric to stop it doing as much damage as it wants to do. And that Kyogre isn't looking too healthy.
No, it really isn't, and I think this is, like you're highlighting there, Ben, a very dangerous moment for Eric, because that Zacian over on Giovanni's side is very fresh, very fly, and not paralyzed. So it is ready to go and pick up the KOs as long as Giovanni's able to get the targeting correct. And I think that's the main importance here, as we're going to be seeing a switch out from Eric's Kyogre wanting to bring the Zacian. This could be a potential sack right now, just to try to make sure that he could maybe preserve his Kyogre in the back and try to win with it, as he's going for the defensive protecting the Rillaboom.
Yeah, Grassy Glide coming out, hitting that Zacian pretty hard, taking a lot of its HP left remaining. Speaking of resources left to use, that substitute is going to give Giovanni effectively quite a bit of health. Their extra would take another Behemoth Blade, would take some other attacks as well, of course, and does mean that Zacian on the Giovanni side of the field is pretty happy to go on the offensive, I think.
Yeah, and what I really love about Giovanni's substitute there, which we don't commonly see, at least as of late, is the fact that now Giovanni's Zacian is no longer subject to fake out unless that substitute can be broken. So it can be completely free to go and just click Behemoth Blade after Behemoth Blade after Behemoth Blade until it awards Giovanni potential Game 3, which right now it's looking to be at most the case, because this is an opportune moment for Giovanni to be able to push through Eric's sort of offensive pressure.
Yeah, that static on the from the Zapdos early in the game definitely made an impact here. I mean, if the Zacian was on full health, or even if it wasn't on full health but it wasn't paralyzed, there would have been a little bit more opportunity for Zacian on Eric's side of the field to do a little bit more damage. Grassy Glides exchanged, Rillaboom taking it on Eric's side of the field and replying with a Grassy Glide on that Zacian. Does manage to break the sub, but not going to be doing any more than that, as Behemoth Blade comes out from Zacian on Giovanni's side of the field and knocked out Eric's Zacian of his own.
Yeah, and I'm quite interested to actually see Giovanni opt to go for Grassy Glide there, because it kind of speaks potential levels of what the move set is of that Rillaboom. Maybe it didn't have a more powerful grass-type move to use, because surely in that scenario, Zacian feels quite free to just focus on the Zacian. You are on Eric's side, and you just want to make sure, if you're Giovanni, that you're picking up KOs so you can preserve the grass terrain turns, because we've got the final turn right now that Giovanni needs to be aware of, but Zacian is just in a really good spot, isn't it?
I think it is, and the problem really comes as to what move that Zacian has access to. It could realistically just go for Behemoth Blades and try to use only accurate moves. The Sacred Sword might be enough to knock out the Kyogre, but when you see Substitute on a set, you know that one of Play Rough or Sacred Sword usually isn't on the set, as Zacian does have to realistically run Protect in this format. We see Eric going for the Protect on the Kyogre, though. We'll see if there's another substitute coming out from this Zacian in just a moment.
Yeah, that would be the best way that Giovanni could capitalize off of this passive play, or defensive play, should I say, from Eric's side of the field. But no, Giovanni just wants to try to make sure that he focuses down on at least the Rillaboom there, because he may have just anticipated the defensive Protect from the Kyogre there, but he just wants to make sure that he has one final Pokemon on Eric's side of the field that he can just double target into and make sure that he can run off and get this win. So it is quite a disadvantage for Eric, both speed tiering wise as well as the remaining health on both of his Pokemon. So this will be a highly tough ask for Eric to be able to come back from, and it may depend on the targeting of Giovanni's Pokemon.
Yeah, I think at this point you have to hope, if you're Eric, that Giovanni doesn't play accurately, so to speak. I think accurately is exactly the word we're going to use, because if it is play rough that the Zacian on Giovanni's side of the field has access to, and it does not connect, then there is an opportunity here. Sacred Sword coming out from the Zacian into the Kyogre. Obviously no Grassy Glide available at all. And here we go, the start of the potential comeback coming out, the Thunder Paralysis coming out from Eric onto Giovanni Zacian. I really respect this, because this is, the only win condition realistically that Eric has that has any legs to it. And so, you've got to go for it. Eric's played this out really well. Doesn't, unfortunately, have the Kyogre survive in that turn, and therefore decides to forfeit the match.
Yeah, I agree, because I think Eric just has to lean into Giovanni just incorrectly targeting there. And if for whatever reason the Kyogre wasn't targeted down there from the Rillaboom, then that does open up the door, because essentially both of Eric's Pokemon would be outspeeding at least the Zacian, as it would have been paralyzed. And like you said, Ben, I think complete respect to that play. You've got to try to find the win condition when you're that far behind in a sort of board state scenario. So huge props, of course, to him, but bigger to Giovanni for being able to force a game 3, because he was able to evaluate the results of game 1, the trends between the play style of Eric and how he wanted to better improve his board state going into the future turns as well. So he really analyzed it so well, and he has forced this game 3. So I want to try to see what Eric's going to lead. Is he just going to stick to the good old lead of Zacian and Zapdos, or is he going to try to adapt to the adaptation?
Smart Money says it's going to be Zacian Zapdos, I think.
Right.
I think Smart Money says that.
Yeah.
The difference will be how Eric responds to Giovanni's leads. What happened in game 2 was that Giovanni went offensive, and he said, you know what? That Zapdos on Eric's side of the field caused me some problems. And he decided to deal with that early, and that gave him the space to play. Stopped Eric slowing down the Kyogre. We saw the Water Spout with the Max Airstream. A really age-old, so to speak, tactic of, let's speed up the Kyogre, let's hit the Water Spout button in rain, let's just do as much damage as possible. It works, right? It's been used for a reason. So that difference in playstyle, Eric will no doubt react to. Maybe maxing his own Zapdos, maybe switching it out turn 1 into something like a Rillaboom.
Yes.
Or the Zacian in the Kyogre in the back that he had there available to him. So yeah, lots of things that can happen. We'll have to see. We're in team preview now. Costa, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are Max Airstream, go vroom vroom. But other than that, I think you dissected it quite well there. I think it's going to be the battle of trying to gain that momentum and just pick up KOs as quick as possible. And Giovanni was able to completely utilize that. I think he naturally came on a more slower scouting approach in that game one, and it didn't work out as well for him because Eric is known to be a player that when he finds the opportunity to try to seize momentum, he will do so. And I think he just needs to be able to handle that, as we're actually going to see. It's going head-to-head right now with the exact same lead. Both sides, smart money indeed goes there.
Absolutely, absolutely. But no, yeah, kind of seeing double here on the field. They've even input their Pokemon in the same order as well. So
my eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, you know, we saw that Eric's Zapdos looked to be faster than Giovanni's Zapdos, so maybe that plays a role. We haven't seen, I don't believe, the interactions with the two Zacians, but you can see on the field there on your screen, because of spectator mode, 1 HP difference on the Zapdos, quite a few HP difference on the Zacian as well. And that means that whatever training that went into the Zacian that wasn't in HP has to go somewhere else.
It really does. So that may be indicative of speed tiering going into this. But at least with the Zacian side right now, we're going to be seeing it switch out for the Incineroar deciding to say hello, as it definitely has not the past 2 games at all from either trainer's side. So Giovanni, going for that momentum swing right now. Immediately going for that Dynamax. He just wants to make sure he has the momentum going into this. He was willing to go for potential speed tie Max Airstream scenarios because he knows he needs to try to brute force his way through Eric's Pokemon and hopefully try to pick up a KO as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I think, you know, good play because if everything was the same from last game, if you think the Incineroar is not going to be in the back for Eric, then a Max Airstreamed Zacian is a pretty good thing to have, right?
Yeah.
We see a double target into the Incineroar on the switch in, so not going to be doing, not going to be taking the KO, but is going to be doing a lot of damage. Probably not going to be too relevant because in these sort of matchups, we see that the Kyogre is usually one of the offensive Pokemon, and it doesn't matter if Incineroar's full or at 50 HP, it's still going to get knocked out. And we see the Eerie Impulse coming out from Eric's side of the field onto that Zapdos, but really importantly, as Costa just pointed out to me on the screen here, it was the Zapdos on Giovanni's side of the field that went first, so looks like a speed tie.
It does potentially look like a speed tie, and I think Eric's approach now is a bit reminiscent of Giovanni's game 1 approach, so quite interesting to actually see both roles flip completely, going for the more defensive approach, going for the damage mitigation situation. Now the Zapdos is at -2 of its special attack. It is not liking the fact that it cannot dish out as much damage as it was promised initially prior to the beginning of this turn. So seeing the switch ups as well on Eric's side, we are still going to be seeing Giovanni trying to focus down on the slot of which to try to pick up the KO onto the Incineroar. Critical hit, which it makes a lot of sense because that did deal a lot of damage. A not very effective move, or Pokemon should I say there. But more importantly, able to get that speed going for the Kyogre, which is going to be getting hit by that Thunderbolt. No paralysis there, which could have honestly been highly detrimental to Giovanni's strategy there.
Certainly could be, and you know, that Thunderbolt was a really nice play there. Probably takes the Kyogre to the place where it's not wanting to hit the Water Spout button. It may do just if it wants to actually dish out and guarantee that it's getting that damage on the field, but realistically, Origin Pulse is probably at the point now where it's doing a little bit more damage. Unfortunately, though, you do have the opportunity to miss, and so there's a nice little gambit that Giovanni has to play, and Eric's probably quite happy about that board state. As it happens now, the Kyogre, though, has got a speed boost, so that Zapdos really on Eric's side of the field is probably going to be feeling threatened, and that's why the Incineroar is coming in to join the field.
Yeah, and I think Eric really needs to rely on a Rillaboom if it is in the back, and if it is in the back, he has opted to keep the Kyogre on the bench. So we're quite interesting to see what that fourth Pokemon reveal is, as we're going to be seeing him just go for the very safe protect on the Zacian there. But Giovanni is not going to fall subject to any sort of predictions there. He's just going to focus onto the Incineroar. Unfortunately, the Max Airstream, due to the drop in the Zapdos's special attack, is not going to be able to pick up the KO, but it's a trusty partner. Kyogre will be able to do so, opting for the Water Spout. Like you said, Ben, just wanting to make sure that no move is going to be missing.
Absolutely. Incineroar going down from that, I think, yeah, quite a clear knockout there. Certainly more clear than some of the other knockouts that we've had here. And that does afford Eric the opportunity to bring in his Rillaboom. That's going to pressure the Kyogre, not so much the Zapdos, but now we're seeing this. We've got Zacian on the field, we've got Rillaboom on the field, we've got Zapdos in the back for Eric at just above half health. The question I've got on my mind at the moment, Costa, is whether or not that Rillaboom goes for the max, or if it is going to be preserved for Eric to go for that Zapdos max.
I know, because in this scenario, if you're Eric, do you go for the speed or do you go for the bulk and know that you are dealing so much damage with a potential G-Max move coming out from this Rillaboom? So, of course, we have not seen what the final and fourth Pokemon is on Giovanni's side, but no Dynamax from Eric's side. Just a clean grassy glide, picking up the KO on Giovanni's Kyogre. It may have been a situation of chicken there, who's going to go for protect, who's going to try to go ahead and go for the defensive play, and we're going to be seeing a lot of damage dealt onto the Rillaboom, and a play rough miss from the Zacian onto that Zapdos, unfortunately for Eric.
And that's yeah, that really hurts. I think, you know, you've got to take your opportunities with Zacian to try to knock down that Zapdos. But equally, yeah, the Zapdos has been stopped, so to speak. It's not really doing too much damage on Giovanni's side of the field. Zacian on Eric's side of the field isn't going to be threatened at all by the Zapdos. He is going to be threatened, however, by the Zacian that's just come in for Giovanni. And now we're back to a little bit back to square one with that Zapdos Zacian on the field. I think it's going to be quite hard for Eric, even though the Hurricane didn't pick up the 2-hit KO based on grassy terrain recovery on that Rillaboom. It's still going to be doing quite a bit of damage, and so, you know, the question is whether or not Eric's or Giovanni's Zacian is the faster, because if it's Eric's, then a combination of the Rillaboom Grassy Glide and the Behemoth Blade from Eric's Zacian could be enough to pick up the knockout.
Oh, but we're going to be seeing the Zapdos move first due to the previous Max Airstreams that it was able to obtain, not dealing a lot of damage onto that Zacian, but Giovanni Zacian is moving first, going for the Behemoth Blade. Is this chip damage enough to pick up the KO? Ooh! Not quite enough. Surviving on 16 hit points there, as immediately after, on the return, we're going to be seeing Eric Zacian try to give a sword fight worthy of this semi-final. Surviving again on 16 hit points, my lord.
Yeah, both Zacian going down to exactly the same HP number, but recovering different amounts based on training. So that one hit point making all the difference, maybe?
Yes.
Question mark?
Definitely.
We shall see. Yeah, looks like Giovanni, unless it's a speed tie, which it certainly could be, has the faster Zacian. Of course, the Zapdos on the field hasn't switched out yet, does still have the speed advantage from the previous Max Airstreams, but now it is Eric's turn to go on the offensive, getting those Max Airstream boosts on the Zacian, if it can afford to do so, will be absolutely huge. And of course, if the Zacian on Giovanni's side of the field isn't able to dispatch that Zapdos on this turn, then it looks like the Zacian on Giovanni's side of the field will be going down.
Oh, Eric's going to go for the protect of the Zacian, and I really like this Dynamax of the Zapdos. It makes a lot of sense, anticipating for a potential fourth Pokemon Rillaboom in the back for Giovanni, but we're going to be seeing the double up right now. Is this going to be enough to pick up the KO on the Zapdos? Oh! Oh, it is! And what a way to go about it! We didn't see the interaction of the Oh my lord! I'm gonna hold my breath because that was a lot to take in.
Yeah, okay. Alright, so no Max Airstream.
No.
Alright, fine.
Yep.
But now we have Yeah, both Pokemon knocked out. We have Rillabooms in the back on both sides here now, so Rillaboom coming in for Eric and Giovanni. The Rillaboom on Giovanni's side of the field is much more healthy. We saw Thunderbolt do quite a bit of damage as well. Zacian now on 38 hit points. I didn't see exactly how many hit points the Zacian took from the Thunderbolt the last time, but you've got to question if it's in range now, especially in combination with the Fake Out. And the other thing you've got to question if it's in range of is a Grassy Glide from the Rillaboom.
Yeah.
Because at this stage, you know, we can see some Fake Outs coming. If the Zapdos doesn't pick up the KO on the Zacian and the Play Rough does go into the Zapdos this turn, then we could end up with a scenario of Rillaboom versus Rillaboom in an end game.
And what a scenario indeed. Definitely not a Celesteela versus Celesteela, which would be quite stally of an affair. But no, we're going to be seeing the Fake Out from Eric's Rillaboom go first. It's going to be flinching. The Rillaboom over on Giovanni's side. Thunderbolt, not quite enough. Play Rough, not quite enough as well. Static has play out. Causing the full paralysis on the Zacian. And my lordy, what a turn of events yet again. Back-to-back turns.
Yeah, okay, so the difference in this position, right? This is, oh my god, this is so tough. Right, okay, right, let's untangle this.
Yes.
Right, so we've got a paralyzed Zacian. There's a 25% chance right now that Zacian's Protect doesn't go off. It does go off.
It does.
Zapdos on Giovanni's side of the field isn't able to protect. That means that when these players trade Grassy Glides, the Zapdos is going to be the one that gets knocked out. Is there going to be a static?
Oh my lord.
Is there going to be a static? No, looks like the Rillaboom on Eric's side of the field is safe from that. Now we have a situation where Eric has the opportunity to come back and is able to get another turn as this grassy terrain leaves the field, and now is a question of whether the Rillabooms are trained to be faster than Zacian.
Oh wow.
When its speed is halved.
Yes.
I cast to take over for a second because I need to collect my thoughts.
Because it all depends on the Zacian's training for high horsepower. Comes out, it will outspeed and pick up the KO on the Zacian. And my lord, it may be like you have a crystal ball, Mr. Ben, because you were able to predict the Rillaboom versus Rillaboom, a fair situation, and a Grassy Glide being able to bring down Giovanni's to 165 hit points. Ladies and gents, the struggle between the grass-type starters.
Yeah, and it really does depend on the, let's say, third move that's available for each of these trainers. If Rillaboom on Eric's side of the field has access to Wood Hammer instead of high horsepower, it's going to give him an avenue to do more damage. We'll also see differences in maybe the item choices coming out here, because I don't know if both of them are holding items that do increase the damage from grass-type moves, but here we go. Grassy Glide, Grassy Glide. I can't even say it. There's gliding Grassy Glide. If there's a hammer here coming out from either player, though, we're going to see it. And it could be enough to finish off the game. Let's have a look. Grassy Glide coming out from Eric. Was there any speed ties going on here?
Well, I mean, Giovanni's Rillaboom has been riding strong each and every time right now, going first. So I do think the training is evident. It is clear. We've got Giovanni Piscitelli progressing on to the finals.
Well, wow.
Absolute wow. That was clapping from the audience in what was one of the funnest semi-finals I have ever seen.
You know what? I don't know what to think right now. That is just excellent. What a way to end the match. How often do you see Rillaboom versus Rillaboom in these sort of finals?
You really don't. I mean, and hope